Marhaba shabab. Today we're going to be talking about idaafa wa dama'ir al-milkiyya, or possession in general, bil-Arabi. I want to break this down as the three important rules of understanding the idaafa. I'll call them the three rules of idaafa club. Note, the first rule of idaafa club is not that we cannot talk about idaafa club. We will be talking about idaafas a lot in our Arabic class. They are another very fundamental part of how Arabic works, and they do a lot of things. Right now we're just learning about what they're used for in terms of possession, and that's their main function. So there are three main aspects of an idaafa. First, they give us the meaning that's provided by of in English, like possession. The last word, and only the last word, is marked as definite. And finally, the idaafa is where our temarbuta goes from being an ah sound to a t sound. The meaning of the idaafa is the only way to talk about discuss possession in Arabic. Possession is relating two nouns together, not a noun and an adjective, but two nouns together. One possesses the other. English has two ways to do this. We can say Bob's car with the apostrophe S, or we could say Lord of the Manor, which is really equivalent to the manor's lord. Arabic, we only have one. We could say Sayyarat Bob, or we can say Sayyid al-Bayt. In both cases, we have two nouns next to each other, and the final noun of the two is definite. This means that sometimes we need to rephrase English phrases into this weird Arabic way before we can start putting them into Arabic in our heads. Eventually we'll do this so fast that we're not even going to think about it. It'll just be, bam, I'm going to make an idaafa. But as we start off, we're going to have to start thinking of how to map from English to Arabic. So we say, my sister's friend is really the friend of the sister of me. Sahib ukhti. Harvard University, those are two nouns, Harvard and university. In Arabic, we have to think of flipping that to the of phrasing, just like University of Rhode Island. So really, it's the university of this place or person, Harvard. Jamat Harvard. Our second rule, and I like to phrase it as last one definite, means that only the last word in the idaafa can be formally definite. As a quick reminder, what is definite in Arabic? Anything with alif lam is definite. Proper nouns like New York or Alex are definite because they refer to one specific thing. And pronouns, again, because they're referring to specific things. When you say ana, there's really only one I that you could be referring to. Even when you say huwa, you're referring to a particular he, right? So pronouns are also definite. Definiteness marks the end of the idaafa. So you have indefinite, 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 definite, bang, you're done with the idaafa. You can't add anything more to it. You can't put anything more in this. This is a good clue. So if you see and you're reading something or you're listening and you hear a bunch of nouns in a row, and only the last one is definite, it's probably an idaafa. Note also that the whole idaafa is definite due to the last definite word. So let's say we start hearing a string of nouns. We're kind of waiting on the edge, waiting to hear that last definite word. Sahib, Ustaz, Ibn, oh man, we're on a cliffhanger. We just don't know. When will this thing end? Jid, oh, it keeps going. Khal, it's just going and going and going. Oh, at-Talib. Whew. That's all one ginormous, crazy, and really most of it meaningless, but this could potentially show up in something. Idaafa. Note how if we were to translate this insanity into English, using our of phrasing, we could use apostrophe s's, but I think it would get really confusing. Note that all the words would have a the on them. The friend, of the professor, of the son, of the uncle, of the grandfather, of the uncle, of the student. Right? So in English, all of these are definite. In Arabic, they're definite because the whole phrase is definite, but they're made definite by the very last word. Finally, say T. Any Tamarabuta that is sandwiched inside the idaafa gets pronounced as a T. On the last word, the Tamarabuta does not get pronounced as a T because it's not sandwiched. It's not pronounced as a T, as we know. It's always pronounced as an A or an E sound, depending on the dialect. So we say Medinat, New York. You hear that nice T there, Medinat, New York. But Ism el Medina, we don't say the T. Medinat, New York, Ism el Medina. And then if we have a phrase that Tamarabuta is on both of them, Sayarat el Mara, the car of the woman, Sayarat el Mara, we hear one T Tamarabuta pronounced as T and one pronounced as an A. Sayarat el Mara. So why is all this important? First, for production, making language. You need to know how to create a phrase to indicate possession. That's really important, right? We want to be able to talk about owning stuff and having stuff and being parts of families and being related to people and things like that. We have to indicate that kind of possession. We also need to know whether or not to pronounce the Tamarabuta as an A or an at. So if I have you read something out loud, you need to know whether you should say Medinat, New York, or Medina, Ism el Medina, etc. For understanding, this is very important because you need to know what two nouns next to each other might mean. Arabic can be a little tricky because the grammar is not just like English. For example, in standard Arabic, it's normal to put the verb at the beginning of the sentence, which means all the rest of the nouns that could be in a sentence get all stuck in the same place. They're all sort of next to each other. But we have to figure out what the relationship between them is. You can do this in colloquial Arabic too. So you could say, Yashuf al-Kalb al-Rajul. Now this is pretty unambiguous. The dog probably sees the man, right? The dog sees the man. Yashuf al-Kalb al-Rajul. Now, what happens if we say, Yashuf Kalb al-Rajul? Here we have a little trickier situation, because the two nouns after the verb, Kalb and Rajul, could be just the same as in the first sentence. A dog sees the man. But it could also be an idaafa. We don't know who's doing the Yashuf, maybe some guy that we talked about earlier in the story. Yashuf Kalb al-Rajul, he sees the man's dog. Not necessarily a dog seeing a man. It could be some other thing that hasn't been mentioned before. Knowing that ambiguity exists is really important. Also, you need to know why, when you hear that, why you heard that, and your idaafa sensors will go off. Oh, I just heard Medinat. Oh, it must be an idaafa. Finally, what about the pronoun suffixes, which we also learn in the same chapter, and which we've been using for a long time? Ismi, ismek, etc. We've been using this shu ismek, we've been saying this since the very first day of class. But what about these pronoun suffixes? As I said, there's only one way to mark possession, but we have both idaafa and the pronoun suffixes. Well, let's think about this for a second. We have the word khalati, right? My paternal aunt. If you think about this, this is really two words. Khala, and the pronoun for ena that gets attached to things, which is its own special form that gets attached to things. Only when it's attached is in that particular form. But if you think about it, it's kind of like two words, even if they're all written as one big word. Khala, T, or khalat, E, however you want to sort of break that up. Let's think about our rules of the idaafa. Is the meaning of? Yes, it is. It's the aunt of me, my aunt. So check. First rule of idaafa is fulfilled. Is the last part of this two-word phrase definite? Well, pronouns are definite, as I said before, so yes it is. Second rule, fulfilled. Finally, do we say T? We do. We say khala T, right? The rule is that the Tamarabuta unfurls, turns back into a ta when we attach the pronouns, and this is exactly the same as an idaafa. So really, pronoun suffixes are just like any other idaafa. They have slightly special rules, but they're like any other idaafa. So again, to remind ourselves of the three rules of idaafa club, the meaning is of, the last one is definite, and none of the other ones are, and we say T